Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We got Big E and Rudo coming to you live as we're doing a little bit of a mailbag show today, answering listener viewer questions. Should be an interesting one. It's the middle of the off season, so there's plenty of hockey questions to answer, and we'll get to those. But feel free to ask us whatever, as long as it's a reasonable question. We'll answer it. You can throw it in the live chat. We might come up with some funny stuff, or, maybe we'll just make ourselves look stupid like usual. Either way, it's all good. A bunch of questions to ask here. I wanna kick it off with a banger, though. E, can you answer who is the most overrated player in Avs history? Not necessarily bad, but just was way overhyped.
All right, you know what? I'm glad you're starting with this question. I'll tell you why. Because I thought long and hard about it. You know me, I don't like to hurt feelings but then I'm an Av at heart, right? You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
What is it? And I went back and I looked and then one name popped in mind. And I'm not going to say that he was a bad player. I'm going to say that the way the question was formulated, because it got to me, like I said to you last night, I was really, okay, I got to think about this one. Then I'm brushing my teeth this morning. I'm still thinking about this one. And then it just kind of hit me later. I'm going to use a name here. He was part of a fairly big trade for me in my mind, in my book. For a player that was a beloved Av and one of my favorites all time, Av. And I really thought, I don't remember what the deal was, but basically the meat on the bone is those two 1-for-1. And I'm sure, I don't know him, so I'm sure he was a wonderful person. I just thought he would have been better and a more impactful Av than the one he got traded for, because the one he got traded for scored 2 goals in Game 7 in 2001 against the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Tang. So the name is Jordan Leopold. I wasn't with the Avs anymore in those couple years there that the trade was made, so I can't throw stones and say. I just felt that Tangs was an elite player in this league. I feel the return they got, and again, I don't remember the whole deal, and I'm sure you're going to throw in my face maybe there was more to it, but and I'm sure there was. But the player itself, I really thought Jordan would be better. You know what I mean? Like he would have been more impactful on the Avs. And this is when the Avs kind of started going downhill a little bit, right, from the 1.0 era. So maybe it's not all fair, and I'm not blaming everything on him. I just felt he would have been a more dominant player. I felt Alex was a very fine player, playing with the Joe Sakic's of the World Stanley Cup winner, first round pick. I just, and again, that would be my answer on this one. I don't know if that kind of fits that category, but yeah, I mean, I would have liked to seen somebody be more dominant than what they got.
Yeah. For the record, it was just 2 picks alongside Leopold in that trade. So you were,
so here you go.
Yeah, neither of them became anything. I don't know that Leopold was ever rated good enough for me to really consider him be overrated, at least from the Avalanche fan base.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to argue too much with that one. My pick is wildly different. And to be clear, I think you could make a pretty strong argument for the case that it was the team that was too overrated and not necessarily this player. But they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. And it's going to sound crazy, but I would say Jarome Iginla, who I know, Hall of Fame hockey player, unbelievable hockey player. But when he came to Colorado, even in his first year where he was pretty good in Colorado, he was a pretty far cry from the guy he was in the late 2000s with Calgary. He wasn't a point per game guy anymore. He wasn't really a threat for even 40 goals at the time he came to Colorado. His aging curve, the style of power forward it was never going to go very well, especially in years 2 and 3. His game was just not where the Avs needed it to be. And the Avs weren't good enough either, of course, at that time. But I remember, I was old enough to remember at least that time when the trade happened, the Avs fan base like lost their minds. A quote that was being thrown around at the time was, "This is the Raymond Bourque 2.0." And obviously where we sit today it didn't even come remotely close to that. I understand Iginla never had a cup and that was the concept there, but Iginla wasn't near as good as Bourque was with his time in Colorado, and the Avs weren't near as good as that time. And it ended up being, it ultimately ended up being the worst season in Avalanche history, right? In 16-17, when they all eventually traded Iginla away for nothing.
Yeah. And what I can add to that is I was working, if you remember, with the Avs, and then kind of stepped aside when Patty came in, and for different reasons. But no, I love Patty. That's not the point. But I had to step away from management for a bit, and it was exactly what you just said. We had stripped it off and playing Maddie and playing Ryan and all the young guys, and Joe was playing everybody. Joe Sacco playing all the young guys, and we had stripped it. And all of a sudden, it was at that time where all of a sudden they can add a few veterans, right? You know what I mean? And if it's the right ones, it could bring them. Again, nothing on Jerome, nothing on even Joe at the time, and Patty bringing in those guys like Stewart. He came in at the same thing on the back end. It just didn't pan out the way they thought it would pan out. So I agree with you. That's one of those, for a Hall of Famer, you're looking at it, and then all of a sudden it just didn't work out. You know what I mean? Like, didn't work out.
Yeah. Not a Hall of Famer, but a similar vein in the chat with Ryan Smith. Yeah, his time in Colorado was tough, man. It just, the things he did so well in Edmonton just didn't work in Colorado. I don't know. I can't even really explain it.
Yeah. But it's something doesn't work.
Joe Colborne is an interesting one too. That I feel like that was a super flash in the pan. Like, I don't think Colborne was that overhyped when they signed him, but then he had that game 1 hat trick, and then we all know how that season went. So
didn't he go like 30 or 40 bagels after?
Yeah, I think he finally scored one more and ended the season with 4, and then the injuries ruined his career. But
that's real. That you start off with a bang and then you take like 40 off. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's bad luck, man. I mean, I've been through stretches, that, like 20, 24, and it just drags you down, man. But when you start with 3 and then you don't go for like 40, oh my God.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, kill you.
Speaking of that, on the other side, easily the player I underrated the most is Val Nichushkin by a mile. When the Avs signed him, I was like, oh, this guy isn't very good. He's a 4th liner type. And then he didn't score for 92 games, and then he became really, really good.
I remember writing reports about I was dying.
Yep.
I remember I was dying. I'm like, I ain't anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, and then all of a sudden he went on a tear. And I remember writing my report, and I'm like, yeah, overnight this guy became Jean Beliveau. You know what I mean? Like, Hall of Famer, right? Montreal Canadian.
Yeah.
50s, but you know what I mean? A legendary player, tall, lanky, kind of like that. You know what I mean? Like, tough in his own way. And I remember, and in Calgary, my boss was dying. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm telling you, this guy's Sean Beliveau now." You know what I mean? It's amazing. He just went from the dead, like, to absolutely every team was going to want this guy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Josh in the live chat asking, what's y'all's most favorite Avs memory from last year?
From last year,
if you got to think,
I mean,
I'll take the easy answer if you want.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
The Buffalo game, by far the Buffalo game for me. The Avs come back, win that game 5-4. The Wedgwood's revenge, which, like, thankfully he was okay, which makes it or mostly okay. Didn't miss that much time, which makes it a awesome memory for me that the Avs just jammed it down their throats after that no call on the injury.
I agree with you because of, I got tired so much of the goaltending, and it was, talking about it ad nausea. I mean, I was just old, and, finally had just been fixed, and I was right at that point, right? But that Buffalo game was right around that area, that time where they all cemented themselves as the what do we want to call them, the Wood brothers, or you know what I mean, like the. And if you're asking about a single moment, then it's got to be Landy, right? When Landy stepped on the ice, and what I mean, like obviously it's that's the emotional moment that probably the remember the most last year.
And
but that game was awesome.
Sucked. Yeah. Game 4 was the fun Landy game for sure. But yeah, a lot of good moments there. We'll go back to our Twitter questions, but feel free to throw questions in the live chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Can't get past C-Mac's comments before UFA about wanting a bigger left-handed D who can skate well. If that's still what he's coveting, who fits the mold that could possibly be acquired that you guys would like? This is a hard question to answer right now, because as we've drifted into August, you start to get into that portion of the season where every team kind of just says, okay, we're set. We're going to go into our training camp and see what we have before we start to make other moves. And the reality is there's not a ton out there in free agency. There's still a thing or two, but if you're looking for a significant impact lefty, you're probably looking at getting one through trade at this point, and you're probably not talking about too many actual available trade options until at least, November.
Yeah, and it's a puzzle, as we know. You're going to get something that's costly, not asset wise, but money wise. Then you got to make room, right? We all know that. Obviously, they made a little bit of room. We all know that, but it doesn't take long till that's refilled, and all the above. So you got to be smart. You got to be sharp. Sometimes, like we've talked about before at length on this show, you got to make a move where you're able to make the move and not hoping that the second part falls through, or else you're in trouble. So sometimes you have to juggle and maneuver 2 trades at once, and to make some room for it, and you got to hope that simultaneously they both work, right? Or else you have a hole, or else you're over, or all the above. So it's not easy. You can say what you want. You can say it's like a trade deadline. Whenever you see a GM being interviewed, it's like, what are you looking forward to add? We're trying to solidify our center position, and we're trying to add a top 6 guy. You know what I mean? So I think that C-Mac's comments were more that route. You know what I mean? Like they all know what they look for in D's, and to make sure that they're able to skate, move the puck, and But sometimes you're looking for a need. Like look at the Lindgren trade last year. I mean, I wouldn't say that skating is Lindgren's forte, or I mean, they were looking to be a little bit more nasty, a little bit more physical in PK. I mean, so I think those things will come. I think that, and sometimes maybe they were right on Miller and it just didn't work out, right? For all the reasons I'm talking about. Then it needs you need a trade partner that's willing to dance, and and that can make it work. Sometimes you're just not a good match. You know what I mean? Like you can make it work, but you just can't come to a conclusion, can't come to an agreement on what you think the worth is, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a puzzle. It's fun. It's exciting. But that's the beauty of the off season, because you can just, as a manager, wait in the weeds and kind of wait to see what happens and falls in your lap at times.
Hey, sometimes the best thing you can do is let the market come to you. It is the truth. I will say this. Do I think the Avs acquire a defenseman sometime this season? Yes. Is it closer to the trade deadline? Probably.
I agree with you there.
I think that's just the reality of where they're at. We'll see if I'm right or left on that one. But anyway, we do got to take our first break of the show. I do want to talk a little bit more trade stuff with you, though, afterward. But let's hit our first break. Make sure you're staying healthy. Make sure you're enjoying life with Volo. Volo, Denver's most popular provider of adult social sports league pickup games and events. They've got all sorts of sports. Me and some of my real life buddies just signed up for a kickball league, so that's going to be fun. You can do that with Volo. It's a great way to meet new people, make new friends, and be social. It's also a good way to stay active and, get a little bit of exercise, or a good way to mix up your routine. Available all over Denver, Lodo, Rhino, Highland, City Park, Cherry Creek, South Broadway, and more. And even if you don't live in Denver, if you live in any significantly populated area, there's a very good chance that there's a Volo chapter near you. So sign up today. Players can sign up as a free agent, a small group, or a full team at all ability levels and backgrounds. We're welcome. And if you're here in Denver, you can use code DNVR10 for $10 off any Volo league. Once you're all set up with Volo, you're in your sports leagues and enjoying life, make sure you're also taking care of the home front too with Empire Today. You got to make sure your floors are good. And Empire Today are the flooring experts. They have dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Everyone's been to the big box stores where they carry a bunch of random junk on what their floors might be. You have Empire Today that only carries the best stuff, whether it be tile, hardwood, carpet, or any other type of flooring. They've got you covered at Empire Today. Jump in with them. You can get a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. They'll bring flooring swatches. You can see what they look like in your house with your furniture. And you can get $350 off with code DNVR over at empiretoday.com/DNVR. Jump in there. You can see full details at empiretoday.com/DNVR. Of course, restrictions apply, but visit the website, or you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We were talking about trades. Randy from the DNVR Diehard Discord, which, by the way, sign up and be a diehard today and join our Discord where you can chat us up. Should GMs and coaches be tradable assets?
Well, oh man, slippery slope there. There's been some coaches traded. There's been some. There was some compensation. That was Mark Crawford going to Vancouver. There was compensation, right?
It's not really a trade, but yeah, there was compensation.
But trade. But I want to say Michel Bergeron got traded, former Quebec Nordiques. God, I'm gonna have to look back on this one. I want to say he got traded to the New York Rangers. So back then, you were able to do a little bit more than now, because now you can't really do anything that way. But I mean, could they be traded? I mean, man, they just get fired. I mean, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
They just get fired. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's the thing that goes with coaches is you're just put in the same box as fire, whatever. You're gonna get fired, right? They get hired to get fired. So it's a little different, and you always say you can't trade, can't fire all your players. And no, but when your contract expires, it's the same thing. You're not getting renewed. That means you got fired, basically. You know what I mean? Like, right? You can't find work. It's just a little different. I wouldn't say that you should make coaches or managers tradable. Would it be funny? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it could be funny. I don't understand how the market would work for that, but whatever. You know what I mean? That would be funny, but I don't think it should be doable. No.
In my trade tree video that's coming up, there's one of those situations did come up. The Sabres had to give a 3rd round pick to hire Dan Bylsma. So I personally, I think that's really dumb, and I'm glad they got rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. I just don't think it's necessary. I think the amount of situations where it'd come up that you could trade a coach would be very, very few, and very few teams would actually ever want to engage with it. I mean, weirder things have happened for sure. If you want to trade a coach, have a player coach and then trade the player. All right.
That's right. Reg Dunlop. And then in chat, Missouri is talking about skills guys. So Popovic got hired. Mark Popovic. Yeah, he's a former
Yes.
second rounder Anaheim Ducks, Denver community. He's been doing the Avs development camp for years. So this is nothing new. This is just like a little continuity of, Toby being gone to the Dallas Stars organization, and Mark kind of takes over with his crew. And he's been around for a long time in the Denver area, and nice guy. It'll be perfect, for the skills. And you just got to make sure that you're on top of it. Continuity of the coaching staff, making sure that you're really implementing the stuff that the coaches want, and you're dealing with injured guys and get them
Yep.
ready. And he'll have his first few tests here when somebody else is injured, and then you got to get him ready. And hopefully the guy scores 2 goals the first game back. Then you're solid after that. You're like, oh, see, he did the work.
Yeah,
so it's all good.
Yeah.
Best
Just
of
to
luck.
be clear, skills coach does mean working with the players plenty, but not behind the bench for games. So not a face you'll see during Avalanche games. But yeah, that is the news of the day for the Avs. So there is that. Good shout out. You might be for trading coaches, but our next question is for you. What would you have done this summer if you were GM of the Avs?
Man, somebody was giving me flack the other day that, I kept talking about the trade deadline, which I thought was masterful. And I told Chris that, and I said that on our chat here, and I'll still say it after it was a fiasco in the playoffs when you look at it, but I still love what they did. I would have done the same thing. Now, as far as the summer is concerned, it's hard to argue right now anything different that they could do. I think that knowing what I know and being in those positions and knowing what sometimes is out there, I think they're doing the right thing by being patient right now. I always say the word trigger. A deadline or a loss or an injury will trigger conversations or sparks with different teams. In the summer, you don't have that, right? It's rare. I mean, again, knock on wood, we don't want that happening to anybody around the league, but it's rare that somebody gets hurt working out. It's rare somebody, obviously bothers one of his employer, but off ice issues or, something, right? It's usually quiet, so there's no triggers, which can make it very antsy for some fans, maybe, which is normal. I get it. I think we all get antsy. You get antsy. I get antsy. It's fun to see things that are there. Tiff gets the antsy, all of us. But because she just likes, she's a wheeling dealer. Tiff is. So at the end of the day, I think I like the approach right now. I wouldn't have done anything different. I think they went after aggressively at the July 1st to some stuff. It didn't work out but I think they did what they had to do, which was the Nelson piece. We talked about it at length before free agency started. So that was piece number 1 of action that they needed to do. Other than that, I do feel that it's an unfinished roster. We talked about it. We all know that that's not what, if you look on some of the websites and they have the projected lineup, that's not what it's going to be. But slowly, the Burns edition and, things like that. I think they did what they had to do where they can be patient now and see what happens now once the floodgates open up here in September. And now all of a sudden there's different things and, preseason games, and teams know where their youth is, and they're like, oh God, we thought he's going to be ready, he's not ready, or vice versa, right? You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of opens things up, and guys get injured, and it's just the way it is, nature of the beast. And then all of a sudden, you get time to make some wheel and deal, because I don't think Chris has been afraid. He made 10 trades last year, so I don't think people can say that Chris sits on his hands and does nothing. So
all great,
I think.
but what would you do? Would you have done
No, I
something
would have.
different?
I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same thing.
Okay.
Obviously, that's what I'm trying. I would have done the same thing, and it's not kissing their rear end. It's not. It's more like, I I don't see anything else they could have done right now. And obviously, because I do believe in them. when I say Chris, it's the whole management. Right? We all know how they all work together,
Yeah.
and Joe and everyone. So, but I just, man, they're not afraid to make moves. So they're not afraid, and they know they're in the window. So I wouldn't have done anything different. Now I would add a defenseman. I would have said it. I was talking about my guy, uh,
Matty G.
Grizzly Bear, Matty Grizzly, guys like that. And I do believe they need some help. I just hope they're not waiting too long, like the Jimmy Veazes of the world. I would have done that. I would have added because I feel that they're not very strong in depth, right? And that wouldn't have been taken over for some of the prospects. Like I always say, I like Ivan. I like Prospata, whatever we say it, but I don't believe he's ready to be an NHL regular. So I don't think a guy like Jimmy would have pushed people down. I think I just hope that I'm using Jimmy just because I'm a Jimmy Vesey fan. So now gone 2 years in Switzerland. Hopefully they do have some on the docket. Maybe that's what I would have done a little bit differently. Some people didn't like it. I liked it last summer when they signed, Brandstrom and Shilly and guys that protected themselves in case that what I mean, nothing else was going to happen. It ended up not really working out and Don, but they were protected a little bit. I just feel that maybe that's one thing I would have done a little bit different. I would have maybe got a guy or two, but maybe they do have a wing. Obviously they do because I have to say it. Kivy the cat
Yeah.
is not saying either he wants $1 billion or they're trying to make something better in him.
We have a question about that in the chat, and ultimately that's up to Kivy. If Kivy wants to sign for cheap, absolutely go out and do it. If he wants, even if it's like $2 million, that's probably too much for him, realistically. If he wants $2 million, he's a landmine. If he wants less than that, maybe it's an option. Rapid fire, a few more questions from the live chat. Best fight of last season for the Avalanche. The Avs don't really fight much. I think it's Logan O'Connor's fight with Pettersson that you mentioned there. LOC quietly is a pretty decent fighter. He doesn't fight that often, but he can throw a little bit. Miles Wood cannot throw. He just is a chaos monster.
LOC's like fights angry.
Yeah. When he gets mad enough, he'll throw. A couple of other questions from the live chat here. How many more coaches do the Avs need to hire? Who are they still missing? They should be done. This should be it, because they have Hackstall for the assistant coaching role. They took Letestu and Derek Army for their AHL, and then this rounds out their skills coaches. So should be all good on that front. Another question here. Who's the white whale for DNVR interviews? You've had some truly great Avs on just this year since we've been watching. So who's the dream interview? Not that we haven't been in interviews with him before, but I have really wanted to get Bednar in the bar. I think that would be very, very high on the list for me. So we'll go with that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very intelligent, very well spoken. But has not really done a lot of those things, right? Outside of the internal stuff with Connor, like on a daily basis on the radio, right? Obviously every day I always think it's redundant at times, and I feel bad for him with the local media. Obviously morning of game, post game, it's a lot. So I understand why, but you're right. That is a different dude that you would have to think a little bit about not that you don't, but you would have to think a little bit about your questions and, because it's very interesting. So he's an interesting man. He's got a great path, and it's basically like a self-made man, right, in the world of hockey. So, that's a good one. Other than that, I mean, I'd like to get the equipment guys and the medical guys all at once and really make people understand in our chat, the daily things that go with that stuff. I think that'd be an awesome awesome people to interview and to really understand. I take it because that's my life over the years, but I think that'd be a great one.
Yeah, I'm down. We do have a bunch more questions to get to here, but we do need to take our second break. So let's make sure we're paying our bills here so we can keep answering your guys' questions. As one of our sponsors today is, in fact, Monarch Money. So make sure you're taking care of your money. Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. And they have everything that you need with your budgeting app, not your average one. It's a command center for your accounts, investments, and goals. And you can do more than just manage your money. You can start building your wealth by getting 50% off your first year of Monarch Money with code DNVR over at monarchmoney.com. It can track everything for you, spending, savings, investments, all of which super easily. You can focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality. And it's a tool that people actually like. It was named Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. It has over 30,000 five-star reviews. And, you know, financial stress is one of the biggest problems that everybody faces in life. So help make that a little bit easier on yourself. Get control over your overall finances with Monarch Money today. Use code DNVR at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DNVR. And once you get control of your money with Monarch Money, maybe you'll have a little bit of extra beer money lying around to get yourself some ice cold Coors Light. Choose chill today and jump in with Coors Light. Of course, the mountains turn blue on the bottle or the can to let you know it's ice cold and ready to drink. It's cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. If you haven't had your hands on some, now's the time to do it. Summer's been hot. It was rainy a lot at the start of summer. It's been hot in late July and August. So choose chill. Get yourself a Coors Light if you're grilling out on the deck, or maybe you're like J Mike and proposing to his now fiance up on vacation. When you're on vacation, embrace the chill mindset. There we go. Choose Coors Light today. Crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. And the coolest part is you can get it delivered right to your front door thanks to CoorsLight.com/DNVR and Instacart. You don't even have to get up off your couch to choose chill and get with Coors Light. Of course, make the most of the times you choose chill. Head to CoorsLight.com/DNVR to get it delivered right to your door. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Please drink responsibly. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Let's get into the title question of the day. With the overlap in skill set, speed, right-handed shot, playmakers who need shooters, how do you see the deployment of MacKinnon and Necas going at 5-on-5, as well as on the PP? I think the PP is pretty straightforward. They're not going to break them up on that. But at 5-on-5, especially with Brock Nelson locked up now, do you just run the speed with each other and figure it out, or do you try and maybe give these guys some room to work because there's only one puck on the ice?
You know, I got my answer for this, but at the same time, Cole was asking which mascot I would fight and why is it Gritty. I was laughing because when you were doing the commercial, I was dying because I'm like, basically, without reading the last part, it'd be Gritty. It would have to be Gritty, right? I mean, because he's got that face that you just want to kick in, right? You know, I mean, it just does. So that would be Gritty, and you're bang on. Like, you know, why is it Gritty? Because you knew it was Gritty. He's got that face. He just looks annoying.
I've never considered myself a heel in any way, shape, or form, but I would totally love to do a tag team match with Gritty as my teammate. I'm not fighting Gritty.
Oh, I
I'm
like
fighting
Gritty.
with Gritty. I'm fighting with Gritty. I'm not fighting against Gritty.
Look,
I want
Gritty
to fight him just because
Gritty is 100%
like
going to be the leader of the revolution. So I'm on Team Gritty for sure.
But anyway, to get back to the answer, you know my answer, and it bleeds from the power play to this. I love that line. I'm not saying it's my line, your line. Everybody talks about is one puck out there. That's why for me, I split those two. I just do. I think it will be more beneficial for Marty to play with somebody else like Nelson or whatever it is. And I think for MacK, it's the same thing. MacK will produce with whoever he's playing with. Not downplaying like Lecky or Natushkin or whatever. I'm just saying, like, there's good players with the Avalanche. Lecky, what's his name? MacKinnon's not stuck like with bad players, and you have to be able to play with superstars like MacKinnon. So I'm just saying, I would split them up, and I would split them up on the power play as well. That's just me, and I'm all about star and power and everything, and I just feel that the way they play the game and the way that they like the puck, I think they're better off without each other. And again, I'm not a coach. I don't try to be a coach. But if you had asked me my opinion and I was around the tour of the table right now with the coaches and management, I certainly won't be afraid to say the opinion I just said. 100%.
Here's where I am not sure. Nathan MacKinnon shot just 10% last year. It's the second lowest, really the lowest shooting percentage in a full season since his breakout, since he became an elite player in the NHL. So you can pretty reasonably expect his shooting percentage to go up. And when a volume shooter like Nathan MacKinnon's shooting percentage goes up, that does have a significant impact on the number of goals that he scores, because there's so many shots. A couple of percentage points isn't just, oh, this is a goal or two. You're talking about 5, 6, 7 goals more onto the pile, maybe more than that, as if his percentage goes up a significant amount. And that's where I'm at. If Nathan MacKinnon can be the 50 goal scorer, Nathan MacKinnon, I think it's a lot easier to leave Necas next to him. If Nathan MacKinnon is the 30 to 35 goal scorer, Nathan MacKinnon, you need to put guys that clean up rebounds, that finish, that get to the front of the net, that take advantage of all those shots that Nathan MacKinnon takes. And that's not who Necas is. Necas is a skill guy. He's a shooter. He's a setup man. So if you put him with goal scoring Nathan MacKinnon and the puck's going in, great. He can be the setup man. Nathan MacKinnon can be the finisher. Awesome. Yeah. But if you need more goal scoring, you put a Necas with someone like a Brock Nelson, with someone like a Sniper, or you flip the script and you say, if Necas is willing to play that way, you turn Necas into the finisher. But I don't think Necas will ever be the finisher next to Nathan MacKinnon. So it just depends on stylistically how the Avs want to approach it. And it ultimately falls down to what are you getting out of Nathan MacKinnon on whether you keep them together or not, in my mind.
Yeah, and for me, I go back a lot in my experience, and back then, like Sakic Forsberg, you're going to say, yeah, but there were 2 centers. No, I get that. But I always liked the fact that a lot of times they weren't together. You're pulling the goalie out. There's 42 seconds left. There's a face-off. You're trying to tie the game up. Yeah, I mean, I'm not bad. I'm not a moron, right? You know what I mean? Like, everything goes out the window, and now you go down to the top. And that's where I thought Mark Crawford was awesome. Feel the game. You go with the top 6 guys there. I don't care if it's your backup goalie that goes and puts a friggin' forward stick on, and like if he's, that's what you feel is going to make you win. Everything goes out the window. There's no more like power play 1, power play 2. You know what I mean? It's like, let's go, let's make a play. But I do believe that they both can produce without one another. In my book,
I believe that. Yeah.
Marty always kind of in Carolina. Marty's a good player. We all know that. And Nate's a great player, MVP of the league. Nate makes people around them better, So Joe Sakic, all those years at Scott Young, I love Ducky Young. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't Marty Necas. Marty Necas is a lot more talent than Scott Young, but Joe made Scotty Young better, right? And Scotty Young was great for Joe. Andrew Brunette was great for Joe. Ask Joe, like he loved playing with Andrew Brunette. But not every time it's like a Sakic, a Duke, and you know what I mean, like Tanguay, or it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's just different types of guys, and those guys will still produce. So Nate's a superstar. Marty is on the verge of being a superstar if he really would want to. Marty's a star. So listen, I think you split them up and you go from there.
I'm open to it. certainly not going to argue. Do whatever works. We'll keep moving on here. A couple of interesting questions still on Twitter. The Mikko trade. 10 years from now, how will Avs fans look back on it? Good move or bad move? If I had to say, I think I'd lean bad, but I am very torn. I think just based on optics, regardless of what happens, I don't think anyone is ever going to call the Mikko move a good move in Colorado. Now, long term, really the only thing that's going to matter on the outlook of this is, can the Avs win at least one more cup in this era? If they do, no one's going to really care about the Mikko move as much. If they are not able to get that next cup, people are going to view the Mikko Rantanen trade as the beginning of the end of this era in Colorado.
Yeah, I look at it more like, again, I go back to 1.0 and characters of Avalanche history. I go back to Avalanche 1.0 when Joe, for example, could not come to term with my father, right? I mean, obviously, Joe was my teammate at the time, and I never cared about none of my business. Like I said, Joe and I were together at the gym when Joe signed that offer sheet from the Rangers. So, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, Joe felt that his worth was a certain amount of dollars, and he used the CBA in his power to try to get it, but was willing, when you sign an offer sheet, because you're willing to, there might be the possibility that they won't match, and you are gone to that team. So it was the same thing in my book for Mikko as a superstar. I think having a conversation with CMAC, and let's not go back to the narrative that, all of a sudden he had no idea and he was traded one morning. We all know, at the end of the day, the agent, bluffed in a way. Don't worry, they won't trade you. And at the end of the day, no, the conversation was out there, and he felt his worth was a different dollar. So therefore, once you say, "Hey, I'm going to have to trade you," and you answer, "Well, then do what you got to do." But Chris and the management, Joe included, did what they had to do. So for me, Air Force One saved Joe Sakic. You know what I mean? Like, in a sense, right? Because all of a sudden it was chaos, and where there was nothing there to save Mikko. You know what I mean? Because it didn't make sense. Again, back then there was no salary cap and totally different era. But all of a sudden, a miracle came in, and they made a documentary out of it. And then and then Joe stayed in Av, and he's still in Av to this day, and he should have a statue in front of the building. He is the Avalanche. So now Mikko, I think they had no choice. Looking down at it, you'll just be disappointed it didn't come down to. I don't think the Avs ever wanted to trade him. I think that they had no choice.
Look, I will die on the hill that if Mikko said, "Okay, I'll sign for $12 million," he'd still be in Colorado.
Absolutely.
So that's on me. Mikko could have saved Mikko if he wanted to. He chose not to.
That's okay.
Anyway,
I still like Mikko. I
same.
still think he's one of the greatest. I mean, absolutely. Still one of my favorites. So
yeah, I loved him too. But now I got to root against him because he plays for Dallas. I don't root against the guy, but I certainly root against the team he plays for. Next question. Do you see Nabokov, Barons, or Gulyev in this organization in 2 years, or do you see the Avalanche continuing to damn the future for now? Both. The answer is both. The Avs are absolutely going to continue to sell some of their future to win now. With that being said, I'm very confident that they are very high on both Nabokov. Well, certainly Nabokov. Barons is already in the organization. We'll see what kind of year he has. It's hard to make an estimation with him coming off the injury. I would put money on it that maybe not 2 years. Give me 3. If you give me a 3-year window, I'd say in the next 3 years, you will get NHL games out of Nabokov and Gulyev. What that turns into, we'll see. But I bet they both play games.
I like it. The fact that you're right, it is getting thin in the cupboards. Like, there's not much to go out and make trades, right? Because they're still in the window. You have MacKinnon, you have MacK. Guys, they're still in the window. They're a good team. They might have to use those things. And sometimes you don't want to, you just do. With that said, Guliev is the one I'm not really familiar with. Rudo, you're more familiar with it, but it seems to have some sort of a decent value around the league. Now, what does that fetch you? Wayne Gretzky? I don't know. Now, I do believe that Nabokov has some sort of value now. I think he's probably projected himself to be the number one prospect for the Avalanche, right? I think we all agree with that. In my book, in your book, AJ would be here saying that, and I'm sure Chris would be here saying that with their staff. Older guy when he got drafted in the men's league over there, not in juniors, playing well, willing to come here to North America, not dumb, sees the opening there with Wedgwood, on the last year of his deal and getting older. And again, I love Wedgwood. I don't want to leave. But there's an opportunity for him to come and own his craft here in North America towards the end of this year. Now, I do believe he's got some value. Now, he might be one of those, I hate the word untouchables, but he might be for Chris and the rest of the crew. We're not touching
The fact that they've already given him a
the
contract, it's hard to see them trading him.
Yeah, so, and then as far as Sean is concerned, I really like Sean. I think he's a great kid. I think he's got the mentality of a kid that's going to want to put in the work to become a hockey player. Championship teams at DU, right? Very well respected. Not the biggest guy, but plays hard. I've seen him stamp guys. You felt bad for him, sick to your stomach last year. Those are the things you right there in training camp. You lose, you're out for the year. It is the worst feeling. You're doing your year. You're not developing. You're not getting better. All you're doing is you're rehabbing to make sure your knee's better, and that's hard mentally. I do fight for Sean in the sense, like mentally, like I want to make sure that this guy gives it his best shot. I do believe that because of his attitude and what people talk about him, the way his character and everything, he's gonna find a way to somehow play in the NHL. I don't want him to think about it. Again, if I was his agent or his dad, I would tell you this year, I'd be like, hey buddy, don't worry about it. Go play. Don't worry about getting called up. Go play. You gotta go play. And then wherever that takes you, whatever his value is today, I can't tell you that Sean Barron's value is this much or that much because he hasn't played. And so all of a sudden people are like, you never know how he's going to react to that stuff. So for the Avalanche, those guys have some sort of value. I do believe that they have some special in Sean and his character, and I do believe that Nabokov's a real asset. And then Guliev, we'll see. You never know with. When I say those guys, this is not being wrong. It's just the Europeans, especially the Russian ones, it's always sometimes complicated for them to come over, right? So I really don't know what the file is. No one really knows what the file is, but I do believe that it's on par and on track of what they thought it was going to be when they drafted them. That's what I.
Two things there. One, if the right trade comes along, no one's untouchable, right? If Pittsburgh calls tomorrow and says, hey, we'll give you Crosby if you give us Nabokov, you do it. You just do it. But that doesn't.
But
yeah, right. But does not happen very often that way in the NHL. The Guliev thing is more interesting, just in the sense of timelines. Sam Girard's current deal has 2 years left on it. Guliev is slightly bigger, but a smaller-ish defenseman. Left-handed like Girard, smooth skating, good breakout type player. Archetypally, it's easy to see how maybe Sam Girard gets bumped out for Guliev to slide into that spot. If the Avs are looking for a value proposition of a guy on an ELC. Now, Guliev has to prove he's good enough to be able to do that still in North America, but you can see a timeline shaping up there. So could be something that makes sense.
For sure.
All right. A couple more questions here. If you guys had season tickets, where would be your ideal place to sit in Ball Arena? Eric, I know you've answered this a couple times. My answer is different than yours. I know you like the corner. You like to be able to see everything from that angle. I like the most expensive seats in the house. Give me like center ice 10 rows up. That's what I want.
That's fair. That's fair. I just had the view from the bench, and I just feel that it's such a different view. You know what I mean? And when you're playing, because you're sitting on the bench, and it's crazy what happens. And then all of a sudden you start working in management, and you're in the press box. And I'll say it again. I've told our audience before. I'm a Hall of Famer from from up top. It's the easiest game in the world. You should do this. You should have seen this guy. A guy was right there. It's so easy from up top. You know what I mean? And then I would tell myself, like I told you, once a month, like, well, we got to go back and watch a game from like where the Zamboni is and watch a period there at least just to remind yourself how fast it is, how good the guys are, just to bring your ego back in check. Now, as far as being a fan, my dad had those season tickets, obviously his tickets from the Avalanche, whether it was McNichols or Pepsi Center / Ball Arena, it was always towards like the corners right there, 4 rows up, so you can still see the whole ice. You're not on the side, but I like that you were right there. You could see the whole ice, and I feel that's awesome. Right behind the goalie, goalie's always in the way of the net's always in the way. But if you just go, like I said, 20 feet from the net to the left or to the right, 4 rows up, those are awesome for me. I love that. If I had season tickets, that's where I would go, because it's you're still part of the action. You can still see the whole rink because you're not. I feel on the side sometimes you're looking left, right, and somebody's standing up. You can't see, But yeah, can't go wrong. In the building's awesome. Hockey's the greatest game on earth. Any seats, absolutely awesome. But to answer the question, that might be it.
Yeah, there's not a bad seat in Ball Arena. You can't go wrong. I've always said everyone should sit on the glass at least once. You don't need to do it more than once, but you should do it once. Next question. We do have one in the chat here. Do you think Dallas waited to fire Pete DeBoer until all the coaching jobs were filled? Yes, I definitely think they did that on purpose. I guarantee you teams were interested.
It's funny because Boston named their coach Sturmy, and then next thing you know, the next day he got fired. You know what I mean? But again, you can always say, "Oh, we did our internal, whatever you want to call that, review, and it just happened that way." And hey, listen, Jim Mill's by the way, what a good man. I don't care if you like the Dallas Stars or not. Jim Mill's a good man. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do to protect the assets of your company. And if you're moving on from someone, maybe, sometimes it does pay off to wait a few more days because then he's not in somewhere else or whatever it is, right? You know what I mean? But what you don't understand is, he still had a year left on his deal. He finds a job right away, then at least you're off the whatever the money is, basically, if he goes and signs a new deal. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but it is what it is. And sometimes ownership has a lot of money sometimes, and maybe that came from there. Or I don't know. And I'm not saying that it was, but you never know. Sometimes you'll never know. Sometimes you just wish you knew, and you could hear, be a fly on the wall and know what's going on.
And then one more. I know they don't come up often, but the Utah Grizzlies are the Avs ECHL affiliate. They've been sold, and there's a pretty good chance they end up moving. It sounds like to New Jersey is an option. Does this really change anything for the Avs at all?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of times back then they didn't have a second affiliation teams. You can just spread your guys anywhere in those leagues, and as long as goaltender, as long as they get a net, a steady net, for as long as they play, and sometimes guys aren't ready for the NHL, and they gotta go in the ECHL. Like again, not an AF player, but like Yanni Gord, like it just comes to mind. You got to go cut your teeth in there, and go from there. So. I don't think it changes anything. It just makes it a little more. We had Derek Army last week on. It just makes it maybe a little bit easier for the American League team when they have some sort of a pipeline with that one team. You know what I mean? If you don't have that, sometimes you're on the phone longer than you would have liked to on a Monday afternoon, for example, trying to find a guy or a player to come in, at a certain place. So, yeah, it works out fine.
I mean, look, if they move, maybe there's room to bring another ECHL team to Colorado. The Eagles were pretty darn successful for years in the ECHL. All I'm saying, why not? More hockey in Colorado is a good thing. So if that opportunity opens up, pop off, do that. Yeah. Also bring an NWSL team here, please. Thank you. And I know we're already getting that. I meant the women's hockey league.
BWHL.
Thank you. I always want to say the PHF, even though that's the old one. I can't trick my brain. It's like me still calling Ball Arena Pepsi Center. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's, I think we got to pretty much all of them. Let me, one more. Do you think the Avs and EJ have a handshake agreement to sign him mid-season if they have injuries on D? My answer to that is no.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's guys that can get away, for months and then make a comeback and they haven't really missed a step. You're gonna say, "Oh, Zach Parise," or look at Land. Forget about Landy, but like now you're gonna see with Jonathan Taze. But I think Parise is skating on his own, and then all of a sudden just joining the Avs, right? I think that's a little harsh on the player, especially a guy like EJ has got a lot of mileage and a lot of years, and all of a sudden you're not there on a day-to-day basis to come back later on. I think it would be tough, and I love EJ to death. That's not what I'm not saying I don't like it, but so I think EJ would have been signed by now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. If they felt that they needed that, or maybe and EJ's got to be around the Avalanche for a long time to come, so I'm not worried about that. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not as a player, he'll be at something, right? I think he's that person, and he's put in the mileage for that kind of stuff. But I don't believe there's like a handshake agreement to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's there. I love EJ, but I think I think his time might, at least in Colorado, I think his time is done. At least as a player. Put it to you that way. With that being said,
for sure.
Did you know the Eric Johnson trade helped 3 teams win Stanley Cups? No?
Nice.
You didn't know? You want to find out how?
Avs?
Yeah,
Read.
Obviously.
Video.
Yes, I have a trade tree video coming out. Actually, we're doing I'm going to do a whole series, every trade that led to players being on the Stanley Cup 2022 team for the Avs. I'm going to make a video about every single trade tree. EJ is going to be the first one. Should be coming out next week, hopefully. So you're going to want to tune into that. That trade tree genuinely has everything. Every single possible way that an asset and a team can divorce, that trade tree has it. I promise. You're going to want to tune into that one. To do that, yeah, people really like him. Like, I thought I was a weird nerd for liking stuff like trade trees, but turns out a lot of hockey fans really like trade trees. So hopefully y'all will enjoy them. Like and subscribe here on YouTube if you want to, be around for when that video drops. I guess that's about it. We are going to be back tomorrow. It's going to be an AJ and E show. I'm out tomorrow, but they got you covered. We got a pretty cool interview coming tomorrow too. So you're going to want to tune in to that show. That's just about it. I don't know. E, any final thoughts on what's your biggest question for the Avs this season? Let's end with that.
No, I think that it's the biggest question for me is what's next, right? Because somebody said, what would you have done differently? I think to this day, I wouldn't have done anything differently. But I do believe that something needs to be done. And I think that my answer 4 months ago was you can't waste that core. And you can't waste the years that they have left. And that's going to be my answer 4 months later again. You can't waste that. Well, you just got to find the right recipe. Different ingredients will be added. Different ingredients were taken out. But at the end of the day, you're just making that sauce, right? You got to make sure that that's what you're trying to do. And I do believe that they have the right people in the front office to make it happen or behind the bench. So I do believe that that's what I'm most looking for, and to see how, everything falls into place and put the noise outside and attack it.
Summer's going fast. It's just a little over a month until the rookie face-off here in Colorado. So We can get through it, team. We'll make it 5 days a week for all summer, all season. You know where to find us. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.